Hello everyone, Pancakes here, and today is a very interesting day indeed. Today is the day that potentially one of the biggest movies of all time is released, and I just had the good fortune of seeing it. I'm speaking, of course, of Star Wars: The Force Awakens. Now, if you're wondering how I was able to see it early, it's because I am currently living abroad in Taiwan, where it was released a day in advance. Now, I know that the question on the minds of many is the movie actually good? Does it live up to the originals? Or does it fall into the same trap as the prequels? Now, I know a lot of people in real life who are big fans of the original trilogy that were heavily disappointed by the prequels and who were very hesitant about seeing this movie. Now, if there's one thing that I can say about this movie, it is that it is nothing like the prequels. It was almost as if J.J. Abrams made the movie with the specific purpose of being as different from the prequels and as similar to the originals as possible. It is so similar, in fact, that some of the reviewers have even criticized it for being almost too similar to the original movies. Now, if you feel that way or don't feel that way, that is, of course, up to you. Now, whether or not this movie lives up to your expectations depends on what your expectations are. If you expect this movie to be effectively the second coming of Jesus Christ, then you will almost certainly be disappointed. At the end of the day, this is just a movie. Nothing more and nothing less. That being said, it is a very good movie. The basic premise of the movie is this. A few decades after the events of the original movies, Luke Skywalker has gone into seclusions for reasons that are revealed in the film. The First Order, who is the main villainous organization of the film, is trying to retake what they lost during the original trilogy. And the rebels, needing the help of Luke, are desperately trying to find him. I don't want to go into a lot more than that because I would feel like that I would be spoiling too much for you guys. Now, as somebody that grew up with Star Wars, the film was just dripping with nostalgia. I mean, even the first shot in the movie was like something right out of the original movies. The cinematography was overall just jaw-dropping in many of the scenes. The special effects were, of course, great, and the writing for the returning cast was on point with how they were before. I mean, in particular, the banter between Han Solo and Chewbacca was just as it was in the original movies. Nothing seemed amiss. Nothing seemed out of place in terms of their characters. And the new characters, particularly Rey, were interesting, and I am excited to see what happens with Rey, in particular, in the future films. Finn was also a good character, but I felt like Rey was fleshed out, and she's definitely the main protagonist of the film. And I really, really liked her. I thought she was a really cool character. She was definitely a badass, and I'm really excited to see more about her. Now, of course, the sort of the poster boy of the movie, so to speak, one of the big poster boys, is Kylo Ren, the main villain of the movie. Now, based on the trailers, I was expecting him to be like the super evil badass, sort of like Darth Vader. And while he was a badass, he was a lot more deep and sympathetic than I was expecting. And who he ended up being in the movie and how the trailers portrayed him were two very different things. Now, this isn't a negative. I actually quite liked Kylo Ren because he is a very flawed character in a lot of ways. And while he was definitely interesting in the movie and quite menacing, at this point in the series, he's not quite as iconic of a villain as Darth Vader was. Whether or not things change in the future, I don't know. But right now, Darth Vader still remains number one. But Kylo Ren was still a very interesting villain, and he's still definitely a menacing guy. And it's very, very interesting to sort of see how his character evolves. Now, there aren't a lot of negatives that I can say about this film, as I thought it was really, really good, and I really enjoyed it. It does seem to rely a little bit on the nostalgia factor because of, bringing back all of these characters that we had come to know and love, but it wasn't really heavy-handed, nor did I find it very distracting. It was overall a good mix of the new, with characters like Rey and Finn and Kylo Ren, and the old, of course, with characters like Leia and Han Solo and Chewbacca and all of those guys. Now, the other thing that I would sort of consider a negative, and the nostalgia thing isn't really a negative, it's just sort of a point or a comment. But the one thing that I think could sort of be considered a negative is that the story itself wasn't really all that original, nor was it really all that unpredictable. Like, the story itself was pretty serviceable. It was good enough to keep me interested. I certainly never really, I never felt like checking my watch to see when the movie would end. I was engaged and excited throughout the whole movie, but the story itself was a bit linear and a bit predictable. It's not a big deal for me, personally, because I kind of went into the movie expecting just to have a great time, and it certainly gave me that. But if you're looking for a movie that's a little bit less linear, with a few more twists and turns, maybe this will be a negative for you. Depends on what you're looking for, I guess. So basically, overall, I really liked Star Wars Force Awakens. I thought it was a really well done and a really good movie. And I walked out of the theater feeling very, very satisfied. It was basically the movie that I wanted it to be. A movie that took direct inspiration from the original movies and was more similar in vein to them than to the, in my opinion, very disappointing prequels. It wasn't a perfect movie, but it was more than good enough, I think, to resurrect the franchise, and I believe that it should be enough to satisfy almost any Star Wars fan. If you are a fan of the originals, then I would definitely see this movie as soon as you can, before any of the spoilers get posted for it, because it is a very good movie, and you definitely, if you like Star Wars, and if you're into this kind of thing, you definitely need to see it. Don't worry, it's not like the prequels. It is everything you've been wanting to see in a Star Wars movie, if you are like me, and are a huge fan of the original trilogy. So with all of that said, guys, those are sort of my thoughts of Star Wars The Force Awakens. It's only been a couple of hours since I've seen it, so obviously certain things will need to be processed in my brain, but overall I would definitely recommend it. It's a really, really cool movie. And with all of that said, guys, I just wanted to give you guys my thoughts on this movie because it is such a cool movie, and it is just one of the biggest movies probably of all time. Probably will be. I mean, we don't know the box office numbers yet, but they seem like they're going to be tremendous. And I just wanted to get my thoughts out there for you guys. And let me know, guys, if you've already seen it. Please do let me know what you think of the movie in the comments. I'm curious to see what you guys thought of the movie. And if you haven't seen it yet, but you will see it in the future, then let me know about that also. I would love to see your guys' thoughts. And with all of that said, guys, I do thank you for watching, and I will see you guys next time.